Mike Huckabee is continuing his I Really Hate Gay People tour, and this is him ranting on his show about that over the weekend.
My friend Matt Staver, the Liberty Counsel and Dean at the Liberty University School of Law, points out in his outstanding book called Judicial Tyranny, and he says this, and I quote, "The Bill of Rights is designed to protect the liberties of the minority against the majority. However, our constitutional makeup does not give the minority veto rights over the majority. The major and political social questions of our day has by constitutional design been given to the majority through the legislative process. Continually taking away the right of the majority to shape their culture will ultimately result in rebellion. To take away the right of the people to debate the question leads to an oligarchy or government of the few, and it results in tyranny," end quote. Well, this week, the Supreme Court declined to take up cases from the Court of Appeals regarding same-sex marriage in a number of states where the people had already voted to affirm natural law marriage of a man and a woman. In these states, typically, a single-robed judge decided that his opinion mattered more than the collective votes of the people themselves. The Supreme Court refused to hear these cases, despite the confusion that exists due to its own Windsor decision last year, which struck down the Defense of Marriage Act. Several governors and other elected officials reacted by saying, well, that's it. That's the final word. Horse apples. The Supreme Court is not the supreme being. Yes, it's the highest court within one of the three branches of government, but it isn't superior to the other two. In recent years, the doctrine of judicial supremacy has trampled both the Constitution and common sense. The court can certainly rule on an issue, but unless the legislature passes enabling legislation and funds it, and unless the executive branch signs it and enforces it, it certainly is not the law of the land. That's often exclaimed with authority by voices that belong to people that I wonder, did they pass ninth grade civics? The law of the land requires agreement of all three branches. Now, this is not just about same-sex marriage, which, frankly, I disagree with. I, by the way, hold the same view that President Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden held just until 2 years ago, that it was inconsistent with nature and nature's law. But the bigger issue is the betrayal of our Constitution and the surrender to a small group of unelected black-robed jurists who can't make law nor enforce it. Now, if you believe that men should marry men and women should marry women, then get the people's representatives to vote for it, the chief executive to sign it, and then have the courts agree with it. I'm utterly disgusted with fellow Republicans who want to walk away from the issue of judicial supremacy just because it's politically volatile. Here's my advice. Grow a spine.
Grow a spine and hate gays again. Yeah! I was tweeting about this earlier. It's amazing to me that Mike Huckabee still talks about gay marriage like it's the 1950s or the 1980s and everybody's with him. He acts like he's standing up for this silent majority and he's a true populist in his vitriol and hatred of gay people. I got news for you, Mike. Your bigotry is not in the majority anymore. Okay? Grow a spine. Horse apples. Bull feathers. Bull pucky. Horse pucky. Yeah, you guys like my Leave It to Beaver style of cussing, pa? God, there's so much there to break down, so let me get started. He goes on about how, well, the majority should vote on gay marriage. It shouldn't be up to these black-robed, unelected judges. I love how when the Supreme Court agrees with them, they're not black-robed, unelected judges. They're defenders of liberty. Okay, but when they disagree with them, oh, now they're black-robed. I love how black-robed is automatically, it's a given that that's evil, right? Like the damn black-robed thugs. Why not? You can't come up with anything more creative than that? Why is that inherently wrong? So stop and think about this. When the Supreme Court recently struck down part of the Voting Rights Act, did Mike Huckabee give the same rant? About these judicial tyrants and black-robed people who go too far and subvert democracy. No. And by the way, on that, there was only one senator who voted against the re-up of the Voting Rights Act in its full context and its full form. So you want to talk about democratically on one side. Republicans and Democrats were, but when the Supreme Court struck down parts of it, Mike Huckabee was like, Democracy, schmerocracy. I don't care about any of that shit. They decide the way I like, so I'm just going to shut up about it. But when it's about gay marriage, oh my God, now he's so pissed off, and he's unelected thugs. Now, again, stop and think about how stupid this is, because his argument is, how dare the judges rule on this? This is obviously something for the legislature. This is something for the American people. They should vote on it. Okay, then we win overwhelmingly, and tomorrow we would have gay marriage in all 50 states. In all 50 states. What's my evidence for that? All of the recent polling on this issue, 58% in favor of gay marriage, 59% in favor of gay marriage on a federal level. You lost, Mike. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. And watch what would happen the second you bring this up to him. Let's say we had a vote on it, and 58% of the American people, 59% said we want gay marriage. Then all of a sudden he would change his argument. He'd be like, did I say I wanted the people to vote? No, I didn't mean the people should vote on it. I meant that the Constitution mandates one man, one woman. Yes, so they can't vote on it. It doesn't count. But guess what? The Constitution doesn't say that at all. The Constitution says nothing about one man and one woman, and that's the way it's supposed to be. If anything, the 14th Amendment, which says we need equal protection under the law, that can easily be interpreted to mean you can't arbitrarily take away the rights of gay people if they want to get married simply because they're not attracted to people with different genitals. So what? They like somebody with the same genitals. If you want to treat them equally under the law, allow them to get married. Now, he also doesn't know what judicial review is. So let's be clear about that. Judicial review goes back to Marbury versus Madison, okay? We're talking about the history of the Supreme Court here. He's totally clueless, and it's so funny that he's lecturing others as if they don't know about. Looks like somebody didn't take 9th grade civics class. Horse apples. No, you didn't take a 9th grade civics class because you don't know what judicial review is. Because let's say the Congress passes something, the president signs it, now it's a law. Well, under our Constitution and the way the Supreme Court functions, they are allowed to check the constitutionality of said law. So if you pass a law that's unconstitutional, well, then the Supreme Court can review it and go, that law is unconstitutional, and the Constitution is the law of the land, so the law doesn't count anymore. It's irrelevant, okay, because the Constitution overrides it. This happens all the time. How do you not know this? This dude was a governor. You don't know this? You don't know that this is the way the U.S. works? That, like, for example, if there was a hearing on the Patriot Act, right? And they say, well, this provision is unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court agrees. Okay, that provision is unconstitutional. Boom, that no longer is the law. It's called judicial review. If the Congress or the president does something unconstitutional, this is the system of checks and balances, where the court could say, that's not constitutional, so it doesn't count. Again, he doesn't know the most basic things, as he's ranting like other people don't know the most basic things. And finally, last thing I'll say on this, he argued that gay marriage is against nature. Being gay is against nature. Here's a question I have for everybody who would make that argument. How do they respond to the fact that the definition of nature, of natural, would be occurs in nature? Well, homosexuality occurs in nature, so isn't it by definition natural? See, this is what we call logic. This is what we call looking at the world as it is and reporting it accurately. In a variety of animals, okay, homosexuality occurs. It's a natural thing. I mean, obviously the numbers vary, whether it's 2% of a given species or whatever that does homosexual acts versus go up to 20%. You know, if you include gay and bi for humans, it's anywhere from 10% to 20%, okay? So it exists in nature. How is that not natural? It's the definition of natural. So his arguments, see, that's the thing about the anti-gay arguments. They're particularly stupid because they're all super outdated. They're not thought through. They have no clue that every one of the points they make, it's the same as the points that were made against interracial marriage not that long ago. So, come on. I mean, all I can say about this is wake the fuck up and move on to the year 2014. And if you don't want to do that, fine. But sit down and shut up, because guess what? Constitutionally speaking, this is a right, okay? And even if we don't go by that standard, which is the standard we should go by, even if you go by the Democratic vote today, we still win. Sorry.